this episode of Firepower, England's Royal Air Force. From the early Spitfires of World War II to today's Tornado F-3. Witness the finest in aerial skill and teamwork. The Royal Air Force, next.
Located in the rolling countryside of northern Yorkshire, RAF Leeming is the home of an air defence wing of the RAF's Strike Command. At the time of the Battle of Britain in 1940, the RAF was divided into Fighter Command and Bomber Command. Since 1968, both elements have been unified into Strike Command. Strike Command has three main tactical groups. One group controls over 20 squadrons, including attack and transport aircraft. Its attack aircraft include the Harrier GR-5 jump jet and the Tornado GR-1. "11 Group specializes in air defense of the United Kingdom and includes the wing at RAF Leeming. 18 Group is responsible for the maritime role, coordinating its actions with the Royal Navy's air element, the Fleet Air Arm. Separate from the Strike Command units based in Britain, RAF Germany is responsible for aircraft operating with NATO in Central Europe. "11 Group is the modern ancestor of the legendary 11 Group of the Battle of Britain. Its mission today is to defend Britain against hostile air attack. Its operating theatre is called the UK Air Defence Region, or UKADR. The orientation of Britain's air defence has changed completely since 1940. Away from the south of England facing France, where 11 Group fought in World War II, and towards the North Sea. For the past few decades, the main concern has been the Soviet bomber force, operating out of bases in the northern USSR, which regularly fly simulated combat missions down the Norwegian coast towards British airspace. The main interceptor aircraft of 11 Group is the Tornado F-3, which entered service in the 1980s. It is supplemented by 2 squadrons of the older Phantom, which is scheduled to be replaced by the European fighter aircraft later in the decade. 11 Group can also depend on the Hawk, Britain's advanced jet trainer, which can be armed with Sidewinder missiles for close-range air defense. Unlike the German bombers of the Battle of Britain, modern bombers attack from long, standoff ranges, over 100 miles away from the target, using large cruise missiles. The concept behind 11 Group's mission is to project a defensive screen of tornadoes far over the North Sea to intercept incoming bombers.
23 Squadron, their role in the UK is to provide air defence cover, i.e. we generally in peacetime patrol the UK ADR, air defence region. We'd be routinely scrambled to go and see blips that the radar sites would pick up coming around from the Kola Peninsula. Usually it's routine patrols from the Soviet bloc, bears, badgers, that sort of thing. We would go and have a little look, see what they're bringing over, what they're up to, and generally wave at each other, generally be jolly good fellows. That's basically why we're here in peacetime. In wartime, the job is slightly different. Our job is to stop those same guys coming over. Their aim would be slightly different than in peacetime. They'd be coming to drop conventional or non-conventional weapons on the UK, and our job would be to stop them over the sea and basically shoot them down before they get here and give them any damage.
23 Squadron at RAF Leeming is typical of 11 Group's units and shares a traditional link with the pilots of the Battle of Britain.
At the outset of the Battle of Britain, we were flying Bostons and Beaufighters in the night intruder role, and the squadron fairly quickly converted to Mosquitoes and then took over a night fighter and night intruder role. With that aircraft, the squadron deployed on night reconnaissance sweeps over northwestern France and claimed several kills to its credit.
As in the days of the Battle of Britain, at 23 Squadron there will always be a number of crews on ready alert, waiting for the scramble alarm to intercept an intruding aircraft. During peacetime, it's called a Quick Reaction Alert, or QRA.
A typical peacetime mission might well be a QRA launch. QRA is held by the Air Force 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. It's shared between the air defence stations in the UK, and at any given time there are always 4 airplanes on readiness, which is basically a 10-minute readiness phase, which means theoretically that within 10 minutes of the hoot to go, and the airplane's got to be airborne and on its way to intercept whatever the radar site have found on their radar scopes. So, for example, out of here, we'd get launched with a 10-minute scramble. 10 minutes after the hooter goes, we'd be in the airplane and get an airborne out of here, and then we're probably going to go a long way north, well up to the north of Scotland and out into the Iceland Faroes Gap.
The initial intercept would lead to the aircraft generally being visually identified as whatever. It might be a civilian airliner that's lost, or perhaps, heaven forbid, the real thing, an enemy aircraft with intent to prosecute an attack. Having conferred with the superior authority, if it were, say, an airliner that needed assistance, then our job would definitely then involve shepherding the aircraft to an airport or redirecting it on its route. Clearly, on the other eventuality, we might find ourselves having made an intercept, identifying the aircraft, and perhaps if we were at state of war at that point, being ordered to make an engagement.
With advances in aviation technology over the past half-century, Britain's interceptor aircraft have experienced dramatic changes. The post-war years saw the steady improvement of fighter radar and jet technology. Aircraft such as the Javelin marked the next stage in interceptor design, capable of operations day and night at supersonic speeds. The 1960s saw the gradual replacement of the aircraft gun by the aircraft missile, as epitomized by the Lightning Interceptor with its Fire Street missiles. The latest step in British interceptor design is the Tornado F-3. The Tornado is a multinational aircraft program with participation by Britain, Germany, and Italy. The basic version of the Tornado is a sophisticated ground attack aircraft. Its modification into an interceptor involved the replacement of its ground attack radar with the new Fox Hunter radar, designed specifically for the air intercept mission. The Tornado is a very different aircraft from its historical antecedent, the Spitfire. The Spitfire Mark II was a much smaller aircraft, weighing only 5,700 pounds, compared to the 47,500 pounds of the Tornado. The Spitfire was powered by a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, giving it a top speed of 355 miles per hour. The Tornado's 2 Rolls-Royce turbojets give it an effective top speed of about 950 miles per hour. The Spitfire had a combat endurance of less than an hour, while the Tornado can operate for over 2 hours on internal fuel and over 10 hours with the aid of aerial refueling. The Spitfire had a combat radius of about 150 miles, while the Tornado has a combat radius well in excess of 750 miles. The Spitfire was armed with 8 .30 caliber guns with a range of a few hundred feet. The Tornado carries 8 missiles, and it can attack an aircraft 30 miles away. The Spitfire was effective only in clear skies in daytime, while the Tornado can operate effectively day or night in nearly all weather conditions.
Of course, when you look at the numbers of aeroplanes that we have in service now, I think that's perhaps got to be taken into consideration, that the firepower of modern aeroplane is considerably greater than anything that, of course, we had in the Second World War. We are firing medium-range missiles out to tens of miles, We're firing short-range missiles down to what would have been a good opening guns range for a Spitfire pilot. And then, of course, we have the gun, where we can go in effectively to almost point-blank range, if needs be, to destroy him.
The greater complexity of the Tornado compared to the Spitfire means that it needs an additional crewman, both a pilot and a navigator.
We have two crew members. We have a pilot obviously in the front seat and a navigator in the back seat. The difference in jobs is not as clearly defined as it used to be. It's more of a crew cooperation aircraft. Obviously the pilot is responsible for flying the aircraft, getting it safely off the ground, wherever we're operating, and back to the ground. But on the intercept side, we work very closely with the navigators.
The role of the navigator perhaps has lost some of its meaning in latter-day warfighting. Perhaps the description is better as the American weapons system operator, if you will. Certainly the navigator has primary responsibility for the safe navigation of the fighter. However, I would say upwards of 95% of his responsibilities revolve around employing the weapon system, ensuring that the intercept geometry is just right to make the intercept, and making sure that the ordnance is delivered accurately and at the right point. The reason that the backseater is heavily involved revolves essentially around the way in which the Tornado F3 has been developed as a weapon system. It would be virtually impossible for the aircraft to function with just a pilot. Equivalently, without the controls, even the navigator in isolation could not run an intercept to either weapons launch or identification by himself. So one relies upon the other. And certainly the generation of single-seat fighter pilots in the Air Force has perhaps now disappeared with the demise of the Lightning.
The armament of the Tornado revolves around three weapons: the medium-range Skyflash missile, the short-range Sidewinder missile, and a 27mm Mauser cannon.
The primary weapon is probably going to be the Skyflash. That's a radar-guided missile. You'd probably call it a beam-riding weapon, if you like. The parent aircraft radar illuminates the target and bounces back a certain amount of reflected energy, which the missile underneath the airplane can recognise, and it will follow that beam right down to the point of impact and destroy the target that way. It's a slightly longer range missile than the Sidewinder, which is the alternative. As we said before, the Sidewinder is carried under the wings. The Sidewinder is probably more commonly referred to as a dogfight missile, slightly shorter range. The difference is it actually requires thermal energy to target on. So instead of having a beam to ride down, it actually follows a thermal source. The most obvious thing on an aeroplane, obviously, is a jet exhaust. And basically that's what you try and aim it at. The missile will see it and indicate to you by certain indications in the cockpit. And then once you've fired it, it's basically fire and forget. Either the missile works or it doesn't work. There's very little you can do about it. Once it's gone, it requires no further illumination. It just goes, and either it hits or it doesn't hit.
These days, new pilots assigned to the Tornado F3 interceptor will be assigned to the wing at RAF Koningsby or RAF Leeming. The squadrons at Koningsby were the first RAF units to become operational with the new Tornado F3s in 1988. RAF Leeming is the only one of 4 main fighter bases today with ties to the Battle of Britain. It is one of the largest Tornado stations in Britain with an entire wing of 3 squadrons. In 1940, it was a satellite field for 13 Groups Catterick Wing, and in August 1940, it was home to a squadron of Blenheim night fighters of the 219 Squadron. Leeming was rejuvenated in the late 1980s with the arrival of the new Tornado F3s. Its modern facilities belie its historic RAF connections. Modern air bases have a more elaborate network of runways than in 1940. Instead of the grass fields common during the Battle of Britain, there are concrete runways. Hard runways are an absolute must with jet engines. Debris sucked up from the ground can damage the delicate turbine blades of the jet engines. One of the most distinctive features of modern air bases is the hardened aircraft shelter, often called a HAZ. The HAZ is home for the aircraft and its crew. The catalyst for the construction of these shelters came when the Egyptian Air Force was destroyed on the ground in the 1967 Mideast War. Hardened shelters sprang up like mushrooms in both Eastern and Western Europe as a result of this experience. The HAZ is designed to withstand a near miss from high explosive bombs, and it is vented in the event that chemical weapons are used. The HAZ is used not only to shelter the aircraft, but the ground crew conducts daily maintenance work here as well. A HAZ may not seem the most likely location to encounter a young British woman, but the RAF has expanded opportunities open to women since World War II.
When I joined the Air Force, I chose to be an engine mechanic. I chose the profession because I was interested in engines and mechanical workings. I like the mechanical side of it and actually fixing things, changing things. I like the hours. I like being outdoors. My trade responsibility is for the jet engines, the oil systems and the fuel systems, but I'm also responsible for crewing in the air crew, marshalling the aircraft and servicing.
The Tornado incorporates many novel technologies. These sophisticated new features were coupled with detailed efforts to simplify its maintenance compared to older RAF multi-engine jet aircraft such as the Buccaneer.
No, there's no comparison. Buccaneers is 1960s, 50s technology, whereas this is really in the 70s and even 80s technology. The whole idea of Tornado was to ease the maintenance task, which they've done a reasonably good job of. The airframe is far more easier to maintain. Access panels, modern access panels where you don't need a tool to undo fasteners, they just flip open. So it's advantage all round.
While the ground crew prepare the aircraft for its next mission, the pilot and navigator suit up.
The G-pants designed have air pumped into them as G comes on an aircraft, just to stop the blood pooling in the bottom of your legs, to keep as much blood as possible into the top half of your body, so your brain isn't stop having blood going to it. The immersion suit is designed for going into water. It allows your skin to breathe while you're in the aircraft and walking around. But if you do go into the water, the meshing in the material will close up and stop water getting in and keeping you dry. There's also rubber boots at the bottom and arm seals, which is air from the air conditioning system is blown through the hole. This one down the front's to get in and out of. Got your life jacket. When they made the Tornado, they introduced the arm sleeves for arm restraints for high-speed ejection, where the arm restraints this part here will come down and pull your arms in so they don't move around and get broken.
Following a pre-flight inspection, the aircraft is ready for its new assignment. The success of the Tornado depends not only on the air crew and ground crew of the Air Defense Wing, but on supporting units of Strike Command as well. A familiar sight to Tornado air crews is the massive BC-10 tanker aircraft. The BC-10 is used for mid-air refueling and can extend the endurance of the Tornado from about 2 hours, possible with the Tornado's internal fuel, to more than 10 hours with occasional aerial meetings. With refueling complete, the Tornado can proceed to its mission, the identification of an unknown aircraft.
It's immensely exciting. I suppose it's the raison d'etre for our existence in peacetime, air policing. I have intercepted upwards of 30 Warsaw Pact aircraft within the United Kingdom Air Defence region, and generally these interceptions result at the end of a very long sortie, up to 10 hours in length with air-to-air refueling. And perhaps the excitement of actually seeing your quarry, which originally had been merely a blip on a radar screen, and it turns into a bare delta. It's a good sense of achievement.